Story 1. This is a mundane one, but smart television, catch-up, box sets, and Netflix. I remember being a kid and imagining a television where you could watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. For some reason, I wanted unlimited episodes of The Simpsons. Story 2. Many years ago, I asked my now-deceased grandfather what was the first thing he ever saw on television. He said it was the Harry Truman inauguration. He and the whole family were invited over to a neighbor's house to watch. They were the only ones on the street with a television, and they bought it specifically for the inauguration. The men wore jackets and ties, the ladies dressed up, and the kids, including my mom, sat on the floor. I asked what it was like. He described it. At the time, if you wanted to watch it, you'd have to go to a library and hope they had it on film, and it would have to be a really big library, like for a huge university or something. Or maybe you'd get to see it on some public broadcasting service special. Otherwise, you were out of luck. When I got an iPhone, my mom said something about, "What can you do with that you couldn't do before?" I opened YouTube, looked up the Truman inauguration, started it playing, and showed it to her. She stared at the screen for a moment and said, "Why? That's the first thing I ever saw on television. How did you do that?" I felt like I was living in a science fiction movie from my youth. The difference between getting the information you want from the 1970s to now is just mind-blowing. I suspect it might be how my grandparents felt, growing up without electricity or indoor plumbing and then, some decades later, owning cars with air conditioning. Story 3. Bluetooth technology. Being able to slip an earbud in and walk around the house or wash dishes while listening to music or podcasts while my family is sleeping is great. It feels like real future advancements after growing up going from Walkman to CD players to MP3 players and having headphones remain pretty much the same through all of those changes. Story 4. An application on my phone that let me order my coffee and breakfast sandwich before I walked to the coffee shop, so I didn't have to stand in line. It was ready and waiting for me when I got there. The future is now. Story 5. Last year, I went to a restaurant that had its menus in French. I don't speak French more than a few words, but I remembered I had Google Translate on my phone. I took my phone out, opened the application, and pointed my phone at the menu. I had never used it before, so I assumed I had to take a photo so it could translate the menu. But as I was looking at the menu on my phone, I saw that I had an English one. I was confused for a second because I was sure they had given me a French menu. So I looked down to see if I was looking at the English-only version when I saw that no, I really did have a French-only version. I was flabbergasted. The application was translating in real time, showing me English text on my phone over the real-time image the camera was picking up. The future hit me in the face so hard I sat in awe for several moments before I showed everyone else. Awesome. Story 6. Watching older movies that are set in the future and realizing a lot of it is things we have now. Like Total Recall with the full body scans at the airport. Or the woman playing tennis, it's like having a Wii. I haven't seen a woman with 3 breasts yet, but it's only a matter of time. Story 7. They were predicted in Star Trek, The Next Generation, where they called them pads. But they didn't have the concept of connectivity. You'd see someone doing research by sitting at a desk with a pile of tablets, switching between them periodically to look at different bits of information. That show was set in the 24th century, but here I am around 30 years after the show aired, typing this on a tablet that I can use to access pretty much any piece of information I can imagine because it's wirelessly connected to the internet. Story 8. So much of my day is now more convenient than it was 20 years ago. 15 to 60 minutes before I wake up, my thermostat activates the heat or air conditioning to reach the desired temperature by alarm time. It has learned the house's rate of heat and cooling, so it can adjust itself to turn on only as long as needed. About 30 minutes before sunrise, certain lights in the house begin to fade from off to fully on, bringing the sunrise inside. I talk to a small smart speaker, and it dutifully turns on the television and plays whatever I ask while I get myself and the kid ready, set a timer on my washing machine, stuff my work bag, etc. I click a tiny button on my keychain, and my car starts outside, warming or cooling to the set temperature on the thermostat and turning the seat warmers on if I set them last time. I tap my watch, and it triggers my garage door to open so the exhaust doesn't build up. If I forget to close the garage when I leave, my watch notifies me it is still open after a set period. and I can then close it from almost anywhere. I tell the smart speaker goodbye, and it changes the lighting in the house, turns the television off, sets the thermostats to away settings, and tells me the day's weather forecast as I leave. I drive to work in a car that keeps itself in the lane, matches the speed of the car in front of me, alerts me when I try to merge into another car, reminds me if the car in front of me at a stop leaves, etc. My phone GPS automatically marks on the map where my car is when I park it. While I'm gone, the thermostats let the house warm or cool to save power, and a larger smart device vacuums around. If I'm gone for more than a day, the lights shift through patterns mimicking activity. I get home, and the thermostats reset to the appropriate settings for the time of day. I talk to the small smart speaker again, and the television plays what I want when I want. My washer started running an hour before I got home, so shortly after I got back, it signaled it was done, and I tossed everything in the dryer. 10. As sunset arrives, my exterior lights all turn on automatically. They dim when it gets late, then turn off around dawn the next day, all while things are restarting at step 1 inside. Story 9. I'm from another country, and when I came to the United States, we wrote letters back and forth. Phoning long distance halfway around the world wasn't something people did. I used to imagine we'd have watches that, when you pressed a button, you could see that person live and communicate with them any time and day. Should have worked for Apple. Story 10. When my 4-year-old daughter tells me she wants to watch something, I can just speak the words, and whatever it is starts playing on the TV in her bedroom. If I forget to lock my front door on my way out, I can do it from anywhere in the world, just by touching a piece of glass and plastic in the right places, in the right order. If it's hot, I can turn on the air conditioning by speaking it using my phone or just walk up to the control and do it. If someone rings my doorbell when I'm not home, I can talk to them through the doorbell. My mouse, my keyboard, my car stereo, earbuds, and external speakers all connect to the relevant devices without the need or use of any kind of conductive wire. Smart home speakers, Bluetooth-enabled devices, smartphones, artificial intelligence, robots that are more than just toys. We live in the future. Story 11. Cloud backup. You have to be really dumb to lose contacts, texts, and media in today's world. It was pretty common to lose them not long ago. Story 12. Self-driving cars are on the roads right now and will be a mass consumer product in the near future. Unfortunately, they won't be piloted by ventriloquist dummies like in Total Recall. But there's still time for that. Story 13. I don't know anyone who has had it, but a cure for hepatitis C. I mean, think about that. It's a virus that has plagued humanity for its entire existence. And now there's a cure. Not just a vaccine, but a cure. It blows my mind. Story 14, because you're asking men in particular, the huge array of learning available to men that wasn't there 20 years ago, all enabled by the internet. No confidence and no understanding of women? Go to YouTube and listen to every episode of Black Phillip with Patrice O'Neill. Not sure what books to read? Search for lists of the best books of all time. Physically weak and not sure what to do? Look up Mark Ripito on YouTube by Starting Strength and start getting strong. Money issues? Clothing questions? Anxiety? Women trouble? Car problems? Need to learn to grill a steak? Want to find good mentors? Want to start your path to mastering something? It has never been easier to level up your life and become a man as it is today. But, and this is important, it has never been easier to get distracted either. The internet is an amazing tool. Story 15. When we were kids, our parents told us not to talk to people on the internet or to talk to strangers. Now we are using the internet to talk to strangers and asking them to come pick us up. Thanks, Uber. Story 16. Flash drives. I remember that several month-long era when zip drives were all the rage. Also, see-through displays. Looking through the TV while watching it? Get out of here. Story 17. My fiancé and I got new Apple Watches yesterday. I was showing it off to my boss today and used the walkie-talkie feature. I spoke into my watch and said, "Yo, yo, yo, what's up? I'm at work." He immediately replied from home, "Well, do some work then." It was pretty cool having this advanced technology that mimicked something from long ago. I'm also embarrassed that the walkie-talkie feature is what I'm most excited about with these. We are a couple that's always listening to podcasts around the house, so by using this, we can talk to each other easier. What a time to be alive. Story 18. I was born in 1997, so I'm not that old, but the thought of 1 versus 1 with one of my friends at Rust who had an Xbox while I had a PlayStation was only something we could dream of. Now, I can join in with my friends on the keyboard too. Wild times. Story 19. I just saw a post on Twitter from this girl whose dad had been imprisoned for over 20 years, and she drove him home from the correctional institution. He was amazed by everything, the Bluetooth in her car, the satellite radio, her phone, and so on. When they got home, he expressed interest in going to the library to use the internet on their computers, not realizing her laptop could do that from their house. It made me do a double take on all the things we use today. Story 20. I'm only 19, but virtual reality kind of scares me. It makes me wonder if something like this from SpongeBob is possible with virtual reality headsets in the future. Or something like Sword Art Online where they play a virtual reality massively multiplayer online game and they can't log out, getting stuck in the game. Story 21. I work in biotechnology. The pace of progress is astounding. We, humanity, cured hepatitis C a few years ago, and now we are curing a variety of hereditary diseases using gene therapy. I do not think it will be long before things like aging start to get chipped away at. Story 22. The internet and the speed of moving data. I'm being serious here. I was in college when the web began to gain popularity. It's funny, but a little more than 20 years ago, the web was garbage. A search on Alta Vista was garbage. A picture was downloaded line by line, was low quality and garbage. A video? Don't get me started. We had it all, including ordering, and it was garbage. I remember from the 1980s that we had the ability to do most of what we do today, but it was nothing but a nerd age wasteland. Bulletin board, online gaming, chat room. It was a garbage novelty, and now it's everywhere and it's good. Story 23. I'm gonna say cancer treatment. I have had the misfortune of watching some friends suffer from Merkel cell carcinoma and lymphoma, and I could never express in words how amazing their oncologists are. These were both poor prognosis death sentences not that long ago. Both the friends of whom I speak, each far more of a badass than I'll ever be, are still alive, and it's amazing. Edit. Who? Story 24. Wikipedia. That one day a few years ago when they did a blackout to protest for freedom of information, I was nearly exploding all day because I couldn't find out any tidbit I wanted. The ability to have that amount of information at our fingertips is insane, and the incredible human collaboration behind it is what sets it apart from other websites for me. Story 25. Streaming anything, anywhere, anytime, especially music. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, I would make mixtapes. The struggle was very real. See the movie High Fidelity to really understand. I used only certain brand tapes and special high-dollar pens to write the labels. Now I can pick and play just about any song at any time, anywhere, and share mixes with the world too. Story 26. I grew up in the 60s at a time when you had to drive stick, know what a choke was, and getting somewhere new meant stopping to pore over a printed map while wondering where you were. If you were lost, you'd have to drive around until you found someone kind enough to help you because there were no iPhones or any of that stuff. I don't miss it one bit. Give me spoken driving directions with live traffic any day. This old person is happy to be in the 21st century, lack of flying cars or not. Story 27. My 73-year-old mother told me about Dick Tracy having a watch that he talked into. She never thought it would ever be a thing. She bought the first Apple Watch she saw. Story 28. MySpace. Yes, nobody uses it anymore because everyone moved to Facebook like a year or two later. But social media has really changed how society interacts. Before social media, you had to personally invite people to things. For casual things, you would call them or just tell them when you saw them. For more formal things, you would send a card inviting them to your event. After social media, everything started being a broadcast. Post on MySpace. Who wants to go to the movies? And those that are online will go. Post on Facebook. Party at my house. And click a bunch of people in your friends list, instead of making the personal effort to invite them. Social media has changed us into much more selfish and lazy social creatures. Story 29. Smartphones, tablets, electric cars that drive themselves, giant thin LCD or OLED displays, some of them warped, talking to computers in cars and they talk back and do what you want. Applications that have electric and hybrid cars drive to you and pick you up. Electric scooters to scoot around in a city at the same pace someone else is doing by bicycle. Parking garages that open gates by recognizing your license plate and welcome you by name. Barely noticeable wireless in-ear headphones that people use to hear music or call other people. International real-time FaceTime family gatherings. Watches with OLED displays showing notifications and helping you exercise, and display a map of the route you need to take while walking. Augmented reality applications that overlay metadata of objects you see on your screen. Sleek, powerful wind turbine farms and massive solar panel arrays producing emissionless power. Paying for drinks with your watch at the bar.